EA Games is finished. I've been wanting to watch this for a couple days, so we're just gonna get into it today, and then we're gonna get into is Kernel anti-cheat worth it?
Hello, guys and gals. Me, Mudahar, and ladies and gentlemen, I'm a little worried for the future of one of my favorite RPGs in history.
Battlefield,
Now,
yo.
ladies and gentlemen, EA Games, I think, is a pretty cooked entity. I think it's pretty fried at this point.
Yeah. You guys have seen my videos over this shit.
I think Electronic Arts doesn't have too much long left.
Yeah.
Now, look, I know that I said Battlefield 6 is pretty good, and I genuinely have been enjoying my time.
But that's the thing. We are going to have to enjoy our time while it lasts. This is like, I'm sorry if this is too much, but hearing that like someone has fucking cancer and now it has a fucking date on it. And now you just got to get as much time as you can in on it to appreciate it, what we really had before it turns into monetized slop.
But it does not detract away from the fact that, yes, EA was a bought-out entity. Now, how do we start this video off, ladies and gentlemen? To give you a reminder, last month, PIF, Silver Lake, and Affinity Partners, led by Jared Kushner, one of the main partners, bought EA for $55 billion. Now, it wasn't just 55...
And put the owners of EA in debt, literally. Just wait.
$5 billion. It was a $55 billion leveraged buyout, which basically means, for the understanding, is that a large portion of the purchase was actually acquired, not with equity, but I believe putting the company's assets and the future cash flow as collateral for a debt. Now, because of such a leveraged buyout, it was something around $20 billion. They got a loan as part of this buyout from like JP Morgan. And so all technical and financial nerdiness,
it's weirdly always JP Morgan
aside, that basically means EA has to be making so much fucking money going into the fourth. They have to be breaking record after record after record. So obviously for somebody that's interested in single player games like me, these tend to do, I think, pretty well. Like Dead Space Remake, even if it was a remake, I thought it was a pretty good EA game. Turns out it wasn't that great because Dead Space 2, from what I understand...
I was just going to say Dead Space 2 was my favorite Dead Space, the only Dead Space I ever played.
Never really got its remake materialized. In fact, Dead Space as a single-player franchise is deader than Elvis, okay?
Yeah.
It's not existent. Now, EA released years ago Mass Effect Legendary Edition, one of my favorite video games. I think if...
I've still yet to play this. Let me know if I should.
Anything, it's the best way to play Mass Effect. Like, just, if you're totally lazy, you don't want to go through modding anything, you just want to have every bit of DLC Sans Pinnacle Station available, just put in a disc, download it on Steam or something, and just play through Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3. One of the best sets of single-player RPGs ever imaginable. You know, it's like perfect evolution over Knights of the Old Republic. Just an absolute showcase from the guys and gals over at BioWare, okay? Nowadays, Mass Effect isn't worth shit, okay?
Yeah.
They made this game years ago. There's
When's the last fucking time you heard of Mass Effect?
not a peep about anything Mass Effect 5 related. And we all know how amazing Mass Effect Andromeda was at launch and just how much of a lasting legacy it left. Now, the thing about this is, the reason I'm mentioning it, ladies and gentlemen, is yesterday something mind-blowing had occurred. EA Games announces a strategic partnership with Stability AI. Oh boy. Oh wow. So in collaboration with Electronic Arts,
yeah, what does this AI company do?
we're exploring new ways to add the value of
Generative in AI. Yikes.
generative AI to creative workflows to open new doors for rapid prototyping and visual storytelling, enabling artists and developers to imagine, visualize, and refine game experiences faster and at a larger scale.
Just less humans, put in more robots. What could go wrong? You know, it's just like it's almost gonna turn soulless as shit. AI slop as shit. Like, I hate non-human made things. I hate videos that are made with AI. I don't want music that's made by AI. I don't want video games that are made by AI. I don't. Like I want real actual devs having their hands on the game. I do. If we do AI, there's gonna be so I don't know. It's just gonna be. It's gonna feel so blah, soulless. Come on, come on.
So again, to explain,
This is kind of what Elon talks about doing with Gronk. I'm like, shit. Make your fucking generative videos better first. Them shits are ugly as shit. Jesus, Sora just kicked the fuck out of everyone. It's actually scary. Sora reminds me of like the fucking Rick and Morty television. You know what I was saying? It's crazy. Soon enough, again, there's not going to be any actors. There's not going to be any singers. It's just all going to be AI. AI artists already got signed. Millions. AI made by human. Bitch just prompted the bitch. Now she has a deal.
more specifically what's going on, some of the first initiatives is accelerating the creation of PBR materials.
This is where you're going to see a lot of indie games. I don't know, just actual humans that are making games. They are going to be the ones that fucking rise to the top. And I'm so disappointed in EA.
Which make possible to generate 2D textures while maintaining true color and light accuracy. So they gave a actual example of how this is going to be used to, I guess, cut down on developer time and bloat and whatnot. Now, the reason I kind of mention this connection is it's not good. You know, a lot of artists, a lot of people in the industry will tell you that, you know, this is something that ultimately is designed to cut down on jobs. Okay, that's the first and most important. Remember, when I told you the leverage buyout that EA had, the important part for them was to make money. Now, if you're some bean counter with no connection to video games or no understanding of just how important this stuff is to the gamers and the people that make video games, for them, the AI shit is amazing. You know, like fucking get rid of like 300, 400 employees who are
No,
developing the
literally.
video game, you know, people who are writing the fucking code.
Like we already saw what generative AI gets us in games already, and they've seen our response. Like hopefully in the future, us humans will say no, no AI. If you use AI as a business, we're not gonna use you. No, we rather humans do this shit, and I think that's how it's gonna begin to go because I am tired of this AI shit.
Drawing the fucking experiences, you know, texturing the goddamn experience, fucking crafting the cutscenes,
Takes
right?
away everything, and it makes everything just like everything's just gonna blend together, too. It has no actual hands working on the textures, on the designs. Like you know what I'm saying? Like there's it. It's not gonna have that passion to it. Dead ass. This is literally just people wanting money to be made, and that's what they need made. That's what it's giving, bruh.
Writing the stories, yeah, let's just start getting rid of all that, chop it out, and then replace it with Gen AI experiences. You know, this is not something that makes the fucking developer happy because they know the moment these tools get introduced, their job security is effectively non existent. And
No,
gamers
literally.
hate this because it's so easy to identify human created art and then the fucking generic slop that gets sludged out. You know, people were not light when it came to Call of Duty using this kind of shit for things like calling cards or anything at the time.
It's noticeable. We can see that there's not a human that really knows how the gamers have taken in the game and what we've also had in the past. You get what I'm saying? Come on. It just feels disrespectful. It really does. Like if it's gonna continue going in that way, stop it. Stop it. And again, the people that will rise are the people who actually have human brains on the project.
It
As
was
it
pure
should.
laziness.
Bitch, what the fuck do I look like soon they're just gonna start they already monetize AI, but it's just gonna be so humanless. I don't know. I don't know.
And it showed that for even a game that is making gangbuster amounts of money, okay, these companies will always find a way to reduce the amount of money they spend just to maximize returns. And why wouldn't they? It's
Hmm.
a fucking business. Of course it is. Now, obviously,
But That's what they don't think about. Like they think that's gonna maximize their returns, but it's not. Like they, I don't know why they think it's gonna. Wait, maybe it's just because they're just so corporate. Like they're not actual gamers. You get what I'm saying? So they think that's what we want. But if that were to happen, we would all be against it, and that would be the fall of gaming.
Look, the thing about
This
the
shit making me
AI
mad.
stuff that really gets me here is that, again, when I think about it in video game sense, I feel like I'm going crazy trying to constantly explain why this stuff isn't that great. Now, I'm not an AI hater, okay? I think for a lot of people that are,
Me, this dude, like
independent video
talking
game
basically.
developers, people that are just making a game on their own, I think the tools can kind of be awesome for prototyping, for especially learning, right? Like the barrier of video game entry, I would say the barrier of software development has dropped to absolute lows.
Yeah, it's just like everything is so done for you to the fact to where like if they were to have no software and they would have to build it from scratch, they would not be able to because they have to use the tools to help them build. You get what I'm trying to say? They can't do it themselves no more. It's not like that. There's difference between raw skill and knowing the ins and outs, and then just having the base already done for you, and then you just using what they gave you. You get what I'm saying? Or it's just like the person who said, "Look at this animation I made with AI." And then all the comments were like, "Bitch, you didn't make that. It got generated for you. You prompted it. Don't say you animated it. You're not an animator. You didn't make it in After Effects, Blender, etc." Like, come on. That's the fucking difference now. There's levels to that shit. There really is.
Nowadays, anybody that has no idea how to program anything or do whatever, they can use artificial intelligence as a great teaching method, something to help them write code with. Probably
Like that's why I don't even think school will be a thing cuz teachers are so technology wise too. Like they don't even grade papers. What's the point of a teacher if they already have shit set up just there for you to do and they don't even grade it? You know, I've had college professors tell my brother in the class to use AI. You know what I'm saying? You can't. Ah,
shouldn't exclusively write code with AI, but I think it's always an amazing tool when you can just sit there, have an AI sort of write out a code or maybe fix some of your code. It's a cool assistive tool to have. But obviously, for companies like this, where efficiency and making money is sort of the intended goal, they don't really give a shit about the value that the stuff adds, other than the fact that they can slice down, say, 3 programmers and just replace it with one person
yeah.
who's working alongside Microsoft Copilot. Now, granted, that code that is written by just one person and tons of AI may not be of same or good quality as,
Even in the coding job resumes, they say you have to know how to use AI.
actual programmers, but the fuck does EA care? For them, as long as they can shit out another live service, which you can
Mm-hmm.
imagine more of these are going to be coming out. Like, there's going to be a lot more monetization of FIFA. Or whatever sports game that they're working on. I don't even think FIFA is entirely EA. Actually, no, I think it is. But again, you've also got the future of other
2K.
live services like Battlefield that I'm
Sims. A lot of Sims people are mad. A lot of Sims people are mad. But yeah, GG's Battlefield. At least we're ending off with a great one, but we'll see if it will even end off as good as it started because they've been acquired.
a little bit worried about, because even though I said it has good bones, I can easily see EA Games putting in almost nothing but the minimal amount of effort to
Yeah.
slop out a bunch of maps, to maybe use the Gen AI to create more dog shit looking camouflages, because
Yep.
I'm gonna be real, whatever
For
the fuck
sure.
came into
Camouflages, dog tags, ribbons, everything. Every fucking thing.
the base copy of that game isn't entirely amazing, even from a realistic military perspective. But that's nor here nor there, okay? The future of this company is more exclusively put into live service solutions. And it just doesn't make any sense to me. Games like Mass Effect.
Barrel. Move. No. No.
Legendary Edition, I believe sold pretty decently. I think it actually beat EA's expectations, proving that it wasn't entirely some dead franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about it is, there was a quote the other day that came from the former like developer on Starfield. So I want to just read this entire quote out because I really do want to provide a big chunk of context because it really leads to the next big point of my video. So systems designer Bruce Nesmith says, I think it's a good game. I don't think it's the same caliber as the other two, Fallout or Skyrim, or Elder Scrolls rather, but I think it's a good game. I worked on it. I'm proud of the work I
Those are hard to beat. Fallout, Skyrim, Elden Ring. Come on.
did, and I'm proud of the people that worked on it. So again, it's a pretty boilerplate quote. Like, he's proud of the game. He thinks it's a good game. I don't think he's going to sit there and say, yeah, the game I worked on and poured my heart and soul into, yeah, that game's dog shit. But then he says something like this. He leans towards procedural generation as the game's biggest problem. I'm an enormous space fan. I'm an amateur astronomer. I'm up on all that stuff. A lot of the work I did on Starfield was on the astronomical data. But space is inherently boring. It's literally described as nothingness. So moving throughout that
I feel like, I don't know, you can make something out of nothing though.
isn't where the excitement is, in my opinion. But when the planets start to feel very samey, and you don't start to feel the excitement on the planets, that's to me where it falls apart. I was also disappointed when pretty much the only serious enemy you fought were people. There's a lot of cool alien creatures, but there's like wolves, but they're like the wolves in Skyrim. They're just there. They don't contribute. You don't have the variety of serious opponents that the story generators. So it's a good point that he's making, and the reason I wanted to play out this whole quote is because I really feel like for AAA gaming, rather, right? Not the indie gaming. I think indie gaming is probably the strongest it's ever been. I think AA gaming, games like Expedition 33, these are all standout, amazing hits. But when it comes to the AAA stuff that companies like EA, Ubisoft, Take-Two, a lot of these companies grit their teeth on, the big games of the year. Back in the day when E3 was a thing, it really was like, people saw a bunch of indie stuff, but you were kind of looking for the next Assassin's Creed, the next Mass Effect, the next fucking, Elder Scrolls, God, whenever those released in like a normal fashion. But for something like Mass Effect, right, when Mass Effect 1 dropped, back in 2007, it's kind of unheard of now to think that Mass Effect 1, 2, 3, an entire trilogy can be released basically on one console generation. Now it's like, hey man, Final Fantasy VII is a great example. FF7 Remake gets released on PS4. FF7 Remake Part 2 comes out on PS5. And there might even be a chance that the last part of that might still be a PS5/PlayStation 6 game. You know what I mean? Like, game development is so expensive and bloated and time-consuming that at this point you are literally just waiting like years, sometimes several years between game releases. And even then, it's so expensive to make that unless a game sells an insane amount, there's never a chance that there's a sequel down the road or anything. So usually you have these new IPs that come out, they probably have some cool mechanic, and then because I guess the bean counters didn't consider them to be like overnight successes, they're basically thrown out of rotation before they even get a chance. But to go back to that Starfield quote, right? Nothing is more stronger. So using Mass Effect as an example, if you load up the first Mass Effect, and this is back in 2007, it was a game that really pushed, I would say, visuals at the time, like just seeing characters talk and the cutscenes presented in a cinematic manner. It was genuinely mind-boggling. You went beyond just using dialogue boxes. You were actually having real communications. It felt like you were watching a movie that you really were interacting with. It was a proper choose-your-own-adventure book at that high-definition level. But of course, when it came to the gameplay, right, one of the sore points of Mass Effect 1 was something called like Uncharted Worlds. So basically they would have like 4 or 5 main quests, and then every side quest was basically you would go into your galaxy map where every system, and there was maybe like 8 or 9 systems in the game, these 9 systems that you would go to would have like a bunch of planets within them. And so generally most of those planets were planets you could just like load up in your galaxy view and see like them slightly closer. You might be able to survey 1 or 2 just to get like an extra resource, but there was always one planet that you could land on. And I remember at the time this is supposed to be a pretty big feature, right? You could like land on your planet, you fly in, you see your fucking little tiny rover go from above down, land on it, and the planet was boring. Okay, it was literally just a square map that you could drive around. There's some hills here and there. Somebody fucked around with the map editor a little bit. And they would sometimes have these like random scattered points of interest. So sometimes it would be like a corpse you would find on the ground, some resource that you would do like a little mini game on. And sometimes on every single planet would be like one building that you would go to. And the building would be filled with enemies or just maybe another NPC you have to talk to. But these buildings were always
It seems like they weren't fucking innovating. God damn, this game seems boring as shit. Not even from the front. This thing seems boring and this seems boring. Why don't you spice it up? I'm pretty sure the players are feeling the same fucking way, bitch.
just the same building with a slightly
Like, look at
different
that.
prefab, right? And it became pretty evident in the first hour of the game that if this was the rest of the side content, yeah, it was pretty boring shit. And it's crazy to think that literally decades later, when Starfield dropped, the same problem occurred. So, like the actual designer said, it was true, right? Like, this is where the game development had led to. The same square map, the same few landmarks spotted in the map that are randomly placed, and those landmarks themselves being just the same 4 or 5 different prefabs. So when you play these massive open world space games or these open space experiences, your first 2 hours might be kind of like awe inspiring, but then extrapolating that to the next 30, 35 hours of meaningless side content, yeah, you can imagine why.
But the thing is, if it's a good game, I can do it. Like Elden Ring, like Skyrim, deadass. Those are games where I'm down for just walking miles, looking for quests to do. I mean, shit looks great as fuck. I'm starving as shit. I have all the poisons in my body. Bruh, it's all about the game. This is obviously not innovating, and it's bland as shit.
Games like Starfield are best.
Like it's you're telling me you have space and you're just saying, well, it's a bunch of nothingness. Whenever you can make that nothing into something because there is nothing, you can literally come up with shit. That shit that's on that planet that you put right there, you made up that shit. So why don't you make up some more shit? Stupid. Damn. Stupid ass. Stupid ass.
Left unfinished. And that's the problem that I have with like the game industry too, right? Like especially when you look at AAA stuff. When I was a kid, seeing games evolve was huge. But
Mm-hmm.
now it's almost like, hey, listen, if I'm doing the same
Yeah, now we complain to these games saying, where's the elevation? Where's the innovation, brother? God damn, this too much of the same now. Too much.
thing verbatim that I'm doing back in 2007 with, yes, prettier graphics, does that necessarily mean gaming is getting better? Or does the industry completely forget what makes a good game?
And I think it's because like I always say like, oh, back when it was gritty and stuff like that. And it's not to say that I prefer those graphics, but I think it's because whenever we also had those graphics, that's when everyone was human working on the game and it felt like Skate. Like literally like Skate. You have the new Skate and then you have the old Skates that literally has so much character in it. You have big raw, so much fucking shit, so many challenges, mega ramp parks, everything. People fucking security banging you off your skateboard, playing Skate, playing Hall of Meat, playing as the meat guy, the skeleton guy. Like you kind of making your own skateboard shit, and you having to do that. Solo missions, all that shit's gone. It's like, yeah, Skate 4 is a good game, but it's not like Skate 1, but it's not like Skate 2, Skate 3. You know what I'm saying? This one just feels like, okay, let's make one that's for everyone, even though this is not going to please our people, and even though it's not similar to what we have made in the past. And we're going to use V as an AI person that talks to you every single fucking time, annoying ass bitch. And now they have sucky music. Like, the ambiance of that game changed completely. It really did.
Playing something like Mass Effect again, I realized that, playing a game for like 20, 25 hours, it doesn't need to be a massive open world. It doesn't even need to be a massive universe for me to explore. It just needs to be a good 20, 25-hour experience. Okay, I don't
Exactly.
understand this addiction for the industry where every single game experience you need to have has to be something that needs hundreds of hours of gameplay. There's a reason why I haven't finished games like Assassin's Creed Shadows, is because after 15 hours, I know that the next 60 is going to be as boring and monotonous. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, more so than I thought. So it doesn't matter how shiny the graphics get.
Exactly. That's exactly why a lot of people dropped off Skate. It was fun at first. We felt new mechanics. It felt smoother. But everything else, the way you felt, the way you skated was great. But everything else it just doesn't feel like Skate. But it does. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it.
The massive worlds, the massive game times these people want to put onto you is the issue. And again, we're not even touching upon the rampant amount of monetization. For EA, to look at games like this going into the future, it makes me worry for like what the future of Mass Effect could be, right? For them, if they even choose to revive Mass Effect as a franchise, I almost wonder like, is it going to be like some dog shit live service where we're all like flying around a shared universe together? Or are they going to look at games like Starfield and think, yeah, that seems like a good idea. Let's take the galaxy map and make sure every planet is landable. It's all procedurally generated dog shit where 20 hours of the experience is actually hopefully fun, but the other 80 hours you have to deal with because you have to grind or do whatever in the single player experience, that's the shit that's going to drive you insane and up the wall. And I feel like instead of realizing that maybe not having boring meaningless gameplay is sort of the play to have, having 20 25 hours of a handcrafted experience is not only going to be cheaper for you to develop and distribute, because again, if you don't have to have a game that costs hundreds of millions of dollars to develop, your sales targets should therefore be lower, right? You should therefore acquire less copies to
Mm-hmm.
sell to people in order to make a hefty profit, even on a single player game. But these companies don't fucking get it. EA would look at that and think,
I
no,
don't.
no, no, we can use the generative AI shit that we just partnered with and
But that's dead ass why the old CEOs and the whole old heads that used to put their brains together, create the most banging Easter egg, create the most banging cards, Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3, MW3, MW4, all that, cop for it, all that shit, bruh. Like, I know we will never have it back because we don't have those brains in there anymore because they left because of what's happening. Because they got so greedy, corporate-y. They deadass said that's why they left. We're never gonna get an Easter egg worked on like they with Morse code and all that shit like we did back then. It's different develop. They don't get it. They don't understand us.
make sure 400 500 planets in the Mass Effect universe have some maybe extra two flavor text to it. Maybe the enemies look slightly different. It's just procedural generation slightly more on crack. They want a No Man's Sky. Or think of it kind of like the No Man's Sky of a universe that's best values come with handcrafted natures to it. But obviously, for the guys over at EA, they would probably think, hey, hold on. The open world procedural generation problem can be addressed if the enemies that say for that I'm fighting on screen right here, these operators just had individual names. Maybe they said a different line here and there. Maybe the procedural generation maybe altered the prefab a little bit. But ultimately, I think no matter what, people will be able to tell, especially when it comes to games, and especially when it comes to, again, the nature of these game worlds. People, the way that it's always billed is that this is going to generate like stories that are as good as the games that we're getting, and maybe that might be true if you're comparing it to games where quests.
Maybe once we get AGR, dead ass. Once we get fucking AI bots that are thinking like us, they have human consciousness. Yeah, get them on hours of games and then let them fucking develop. Maybe, but not just AI.
Especially side
It
quests,
not AI or AGI in general. Okay, human. I want humans. But I'm just saying, if we were to go any AI, get AGI.
resemble that of something of a early MMO. But this isn't that, okay? No matter what, it's not what gamers are mostly interested in, especially those that are interested in the single player experiences. Again, it's cheaper for them to make a game in the scope of Knights of the Old Republic or even Mass Effect from the 360 era with the prettier graphics of
Like this
today
game looks
than
so
to
boring.
keep giving us constant hundreds of hours of the most monotonous, meaningless gameplay that's still intermixed with, 15, 20 hours of good gameplay. It really feels like the gaming, the production budgets have increased for for really no real tangible artistic gain. It's just there for these companies so that they can say, hey, listen, here's 200 hours of gameplay. And now that we have generative AI, it's going to be easier to make and it's going to be better looking procedural generation. Still procedural at the end of the day. But hey, at least you have 600 worlds to go to instead of, I would rather, and this is my personal opinion, rather take 4 hub worlds than 400 AI generated worlds that are going to get old after the 3rd visit, you know? Same thing
Literally.
happened to Starfield. Same thing I would say would happen to any other massive scope space game or just massive single player game in general. It doesn't even have to be a space game. It could be open world crime games. It could be anything else in that vein. So yeah, you know, honestly, like looking at this whole partnership with EA, the only thing I really care about from their company is Mass Effect. And other than that, Need for Speed.
We could
just
tell.
because I love driving cars
We
around. And it's
could
like the
tell in
only
this fucking
arcadey
video. God
racing game.
fucking damn. This whole thing was really about him ranting about Mass Effect. Now I get it. He's like scared because it's already ass, and then it's gonna be more ass. But like, damn.
But
The
other
other
than that,
games.
man, Mass Effect, dog. You know, I have been
I also thought this video was gonna be about Colonel shit.
so excited. Like, I would say that out of all the RPGs that I was looking for, and I know that people are looking at BioWare's writing as dog shit these days. And look, games like Dragon Age Veilguard aren't doing much to help in that department. But maybe it's just copium. Maybe it's just like a soft spot for me, and the hopes that I have for one of my favorite space franchises. But reading the kind of shit that EA is doing now,
Yeah.
the only thing that I can hope, guys, is please God, please for the love of God, can this thing be sold off?
I was just gonna say they need another big fucking buyout, and that was a record. So they would have to top the world record.
Can this entire franchise be sold? Can these single player?
I'm releasing my AI video that I made a while ago, but I was ashamed to put out because I didn't want you guys to call me paranoid. But now this is the perfect time because it's exactly what I was fucking getting into.
Things like Dead Space, can these studios, can these IPs be sold off to organizations that give a shit? You know, for a lot of game companies out there that are developing video games, there's such an emerging market of AA experiences, indie experiences, where we understand that it's not the AAA ray traced crazy experience, but at least I think that's where the innovation of games are happening. It's crazy to me when a game like Baldur's Gate 3 comes out and just does gangbuster numbers, earns so many awards, and the industry doesn't figure out that A, the single player experience really isn't dead, and B, if you want to make money, you can just make really.
Yeah, I don't know why they would think the single player experience is dead at all. I guess I get it because you can't play with your friends, you can't do this, but like, come on. Come on. There's a bunch of single player games. I feel like that's just an excuse.
Really good single player experiences. I doubt the team behind Expedition 33, even the business team, considered that game to be a failure. But that game alone shows more soul and more heart and more understanding of what I think gamers want, which is an actual evolution to gameplay. They
Yeah.
don't just want prettier visuals and a nicer story, which is what
Yeah, and something that we liked in a different game that's now in this game. Bitch, innovate. Always trying to copy someone else's shit, bruh. Innovate.
Expedition
They'd
33
be so
has.
scared.
But they also want an expanse to the gameplay. They want this turn-based RPG experience that they grew up loving to be an evolution of what they have. You know, to take inspiration from other popular games and sort of infiltrate them into your own genre and then push your own genre. They want you to just take the best from gaming and keep making it better. They want you to play good gaming experiences. They don't want you to get games where the player plays them for like 10 hours and then companies like this think that the players are going to play for hundreds of hours thinking that they're going to be enamored with AI generated nonsense the whole fucking time.
Elon.
Or just extrapolating these open, boring worlds with just generative AI.
And I don't not like Elon. He's just very for Gronk making video games, you know? And I get it. Your AI is good, but get the fuck away, bitch.
AI thinking that it's going to be the crutch that saves it. But then again, I'm thinking too positively in a way too. There's a good chance that Mass Effect isn't even in the fucking mind space for some of these like bean counters or some of these business types. I'm pretty sure going in forward, looking at, Battlefield, that might be something they keep, pretty clean just because it's so successful at the moment.
You gotta make a new one though. How is that gonna be made? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
But looking at sports games and looking at the future of
Sports games, I feel like that's easy to make. Bitch, what is there? Like a couple hundred players that like new players on the roster that come in, and then you just refresh the roster that which teams they went to or what teams they're on. I feel like that's not as hard. Like it those like sports games are really really repetitive in what they do.
live service shit, which it doesn't matter how many times those live services fail. I feel like it's the goddamn hair.
Technically, they don't even have to release another one. Just update the roster next year. You know what I'm saying? Update the arenas, and then it's good. Just make an update.
Rowan Dragon that these companies can't stop chasing. And if it's the one thing that'll crash the AAA industry, it's probably the heavy reliance on this, you know? I really do feel that for anybody that's losing their job, like the talented people that lose their jobs from EA, eventually do find places somewhere where they can at least develop those AA experiences, or maybe even like a good AAA experience somewhere else. Because let me tell you, man, EA isn't where it's at right now, and it won't be for a long time.
Like I feel like the industry can't get taken over by AI because you're telling me people aren't gonna like developers aren't gonna come together and make a good ass game by humans. Like they're just gonna take it.
Really. I think honestly at this point this might just be the actual death of EA. Like it might just be a
Yeah.
point where, you know, it goes fine for a year or two and then eventually one more studio falters, one more studio shutters, and then eventually piece by piece gets sold off until eventually the guys buying it just sell off whatever they need to recoup their losses and call it a day. Or they turn this into like some other pure mindless mobile gaming haven
Base.
where they make a shit ton of money on people that literally do not give a shit about gaming in the slightest. But ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think in the comment section below. This is me, Mutahar, and yeah, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. I am out.
Oh my god, the first COD.
Hello, guys.
All right. Well, I guess that's the end of the video. What do you guys think of it? Let me know in the comments. And oh my god, because now I gotta get into the kernel shit because I thought this was gonna be about kernel, but now it's about generative AI and how AI is gonna take over games. I thought he was gonna talk about how Saudi is doing kernel anti-cheat, so then they can get our data and try to do. I don't know. That was my big conspiracy. At least I said it. So like, if it does happen, hey. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And until then, I'll see you guys next time.